It's the face that sells it.
Right.
It really is. It's the face that sells it.
I get excited when I do it.
One of us has to.
Hi.
So the one we got for you today, it's controversial. It's a good one, but it is a controversial late 80s flick. It's put into the genres of comedy, suspense, mystery, and horror.
Yes. One of my favorite movies.
Debatable on the horror part.
Very debatable.
Very, very debatable. I don't know, maybe it was just a little freakier back then than it is now, and it's hard for us to relate.
It's from 1989, in which the 80s, we love the 80s films.
We just talked about that too. So we kind of teeter through, the 60s and beyond, earlier. Avoid the 70s as if it were a plague. I mean, we are not just 6 foot distancing.
That's a fact.
We are boy in the bubble. 80s and 90s seem to really be our favorites.
To pick up quite a bit. Yep.
However, and maybe you guys can have some say in this. Should we do some of the newer stuff? Early 2000s and on. Should we maybe look into some of these newer ones? Because it's been kind of a 50-50, a little disappointed in some of the ones coming out, especially all the remakes.
A lot of remakes.
I've heard ups and downs about everything, but
a lot of remakes.
So
today's movie, however, is 1989, The Burbs.
Yes, box office of $49.1 million, starring Tom Hanks and Carrie Fisher as husband and wife. It's got Corey Feldman playing a pretty prominent role. Henry Gibson plays one of the bad guys. And most of you might know Henry Gibson, via photo. But you can't place a single frickin' movie he's been in.
That's a fact.
But you're all like, I know who that is.
Yeah.
This also has Courtney Gaines, who played Malachi in Children of the Corn.
And it's crazy from when he looked like in the Children of the Corn.
They really roughed him up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they really roughed him up.
His
makeup was interesting. They really put a nice purple undertone to his face.
Yeah.
He didn't just look malnourished. He looked like somebody had told him, "You stay in the basement," and that's
he's always itching his face.
Always itching.
So funny.
And it's a redneck beard. It kind of grows in patches, but it's never really full.
So anyways, you have the beginning of the movie zooming in on the suburbs.
Perfect little neighborhood. Ladies, think Wisteria Lane from Desperate Housewives. Very ideal, very perfect.
And in which you have Tom Hanks, and his character's name is Ray, who is beginning his vacation, which at this time is very unheard of, to just stay at home.
Right, yeah, and Carrie Fisher, playing his wife Carol, she points this out numerous times, that it's not normal to take a vacation for 7 days and not go somewhere.
And the director, Joe, was even pointing out that in his description, the writer pointed out in the description that Joe picked up on this fantasy of staying at home on vacation and wanted it right away because nobody did that.
Which today, that's not abnormal. I think out of the many years that I've been working, once my late 20s hit, I stopped going places for vacation. I wanted to stay home, wear my sweats, eat junk food, watch bad TV.
And that's a typical vacation, at least in our eyes. And so it's pointing out in the beginning of him basically watching his neighbors live their day-to-day life. You have his buddy Art that his wife and kid have left for the week, and then you have the next door neighbor, the military guy with the trophy wife.
Yep, your typical ex-military guy. He's out front, putting his flag up. You've got his buddy. I think he was doing the lawn or something like that.
And then you have Walter that lives down the
at the
end of the road.
The old guy.
With his little dog, which you found out the little dog.
Yes, he's got this cute little toy poodle named Queenie. Cute name for a dog. Turns out this fluffy little star was the poodle from Silence of the Lambs,
And
playing Precious.
Which now that I think about it and looking at it, I mean, I instantly recognize that dog now.
Yeah, and I
Now-
didn't think of it when we watched the movie. So this is basically, an overstressed suburbanite, and he and his neighbors, via way of, leaving men to their own devices, not to be, sexist or anything, it's just joke.
That's right.
They're convinced that this new family that's moved onto the block is just totally up to no good. They sit there and say, oh, they must be like in some kind of satanic cult, or
So funny. They
they
start
think
coming up with their own.
witchcraft.
Yeah, they start coming up with their own things, and which it's super funny because anytime they walk onto the property of the wind,
and they
picks-
actually take notice of it.
Yes, every time. It's so hilarious. So you have the entire town or the entire block basically start spying on them, and rummaging through their garbage and trying to find anything wrong that they've been doing.
My personal favorite part was the middle of the night when Hanks's character stays up late and it's pouring rain, and he looks into his neighbor's desolate backyard, and there they are in rain slickers, getting totally soaked, digging holes. Body-sized holes.
And they come up with all these speculations, and it's just so funny. The speculations
They
throughout
get
the entire...
wilder as it goes on.
And so then you have it to where they finally, the wives have talked the men into going over and visiting.
Now, mind you, this house that these shady neighbors live in, it's very very Addams Family Munsters looking house. The yard is dead. It's yellow, overgrown.
Dead trees.
The house has all that crackle paint all over it.
Windows busted.
Pretty freaking creepy.
Compared to everything else in the neighborhood, it is Deathland.
It's bringing some property value down. And we discussed, while watching the movie, because we've seen it 90 million times, we discussed how growing up, we all had that one house in town or down the block or a street over. One house where you had like the creepy cat lady, and everybody was like, oh my God, she's a witch.
Or a family that you just never saw.
Yeah. Everybody had it, and you would avoid this place on Halloween. The kids would be daring each other to go up to the door. And this scene where the wives are bringing the husbands along saying, they're normal people. Would you just stop being a child? It reminded me of a group of kids on Halloween daring each other to go ding-dong ditch the scary house.
That's awesome.
It really did. It kind of brought me back a little bit. That made me feel a little nostalgic because we had one of those houses.
Well, and that scene leading up to, so they talk them into going over and bring them brownies and this, that, and the other, and they go inside and they're waiting for the brother, which is the doctor.
Yeah.
Who's a painter, that coming up from the basement. And this is one of my favorite scenes, and I actually do this as a part of a tribute to this movie, is that they pass around sardines and pretzels. And that is one of my favorite snacks to have with this movie. And then Bonnie's like, I'm trying to cut back. And then
But, oh my gosh, but Carol looks over at Ray and is like, But when it comes to her, she takes just the pretzel. It's like, really?
So funny. And then you have Mr. Runsfield in the background ripping off the wallpaper.
That would be the military guy.
They make it so awkward.
Like the entire meeting it's very uneasy. The inside of this house is just, it looks like it's been ransacked, and you had, basically degenerates getting in there and spray painting it kind of houses. Very, very
just broken down. And so again, you have the conspiracy theory going on with Mr. Runsfield and then Ray, and they're trying to find evidence of something going on. Well, then you have Art, who's breaking into the backyard, trying to also...
That would be, because when they were discussing going over, the two wives, when Art was like, oh, okay, I'm coming, the two wives were like, no, nope. You stay here. So clearly Carol knew he is the problem in that friendship. He's the friend who dares you to ding dong ditch when you know damn well you shouldn't.
And it's so funny because Tom Hanks gets so worked up that his wife actually ends up grounding him away from the boys because of how much trouble they're getting into trying to find evidence that something's going on. Because not only that, then you have a neighbor that's come up missing.
Yes, Walter, the old man down the street. Everybody's outside doing what suburbanites do. Their garden, their lawn. And suddenly Queenie, all dirty and disheveled, comes running up to one of the wives, Bonnie. And she's just, oh my gosh, does Walter... She sounds like that. Does Walter know you're outside? They go to return the dog and check in on Walter, only discover after they've broken in, Walter's not there. Television's on, a chair's turned over.
His toupee is
left. His toupee is left behind.
So funny.
And Ray decides, I'm going to leave a note to let Walter know, hey, we've got your dog. He should have said, we've got your dog. We're going to take care of him until we see you.
Should have, but...
But it was just, we've got your dog. Slid that and the toupee back inside through the mail slot.
And this is a key point because when they go and visit...
Yeah.
Ray ends up finding the toupee in the basement.
Yeah.
And
along with a bunch of Walter's mail.
And this is what sets off the quest near the end of the movie to finally break in, send all the wives out. They know the Klopexes are going to be out of town on work stuff, so then they break in. And
it's definitely where things escalate. Like, you're sitting there going, oh, okay, you're just spying on your neighbor and dumping their trash and digging through it. No, this is like the extreme.
Ricky calls all of his friends over to watch.
Did we discuss who Ricky was?
No.
All right, so right next door to Ray, there's this kid played by Corey Feldman who is home on his own all the time. He is definitely a latchkey kid, which was totally normal for us growing up.
Yeah.
To come home and you're home on your own for 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
Totally normal. So here he is with no parents, and he is just getting a thrill and a half off of watching his grown-ass neighbors act like complete jackwagons.
Yeah. It's so funny.
He catches on. Things are going to heighten. He invites all of his stupid little teen buddies over to watch the show.
And they've got, blankets out. They've got drinks. They've got, just
this
everybody's...
This was 80s TikTok.
Then you have Mr. Runsfield on top of his roof with the walkie-talkie, his rifle.
And then binoculars.
Oh, yeah.
And
which is funny.
Heat-seeking goggles.
He's supposed to be the lookout, and then doesn't even see the Klopexes coming back.
Yeah.
When Ray and Art are in their house, and then they're coming back, see that their house is broken into by the light in the basement, and then go get the cops.
Yeah. So it starts off with Art, who we've established at this point is a total boob. Not to mention a disgusting slob.
Yeah.
He's that friend that just shows up and eats everything in your refrigerator.
So irritating.
Talks with his mouth full. He is vile. Well, Art, being the simpleton he is, decides to climb the power line post. Gets up there and cuts a line. And ends up knocking out the power for, what was it, like the whole block or the Tri-County area or something? I think it was more the block. There's no way that knocked the entire county out. Oh, my.
The movie's great. It's one of my favorites. They end up finding at the end that the Klopexes have been using their furnace to
cremate people. They have a trunk full of skulls and bones.
And the doctor collects his skulls.
Yeah, it's It's definitely a show worth watching.
And this is where we're on that. Why is it horror? Because
why did it fall into horror?
And so maybe it's because the suspense of the Klopexes are evil and they're trying to find out.
Well, maybe it's because it involves serial killers.
I mean, that's what my thought is.
But it could also be that, like I had stated before, maybe for that time that was pretty freaky because that was around the time where you had like Ted Bundy and you're getting ready to have people like Dahmer popping up. You've had John Wayne Gacy, stuff like that. You've had some scary stuff happen in nice, quiet suburban neighborhoods.
Well, and they even have a story in the movie about Skip.
Yes, it was kind of like the original Candyman story.
Yep.
The guy with the poison pixie sticks. I have another theory though. I think what it is when you look at horror movies today, even through the 90s, you can watch it progress. And once you hit the early 2000s, you see the horror genre take a step up and kind of say, how much further can we push it? So we're kind of desensitized. Because we watch all this blood, gut, gore, mayhem, decapitation. Please don't hurt the dogs. We don't like that.
We don't like that.
Maybe that's what it is. When we stop and we watch these older ones, what could have been considered pretty creepy back then, we don't see it that way.
It's very possible. Very possible.
I mean, maybe it's a social and psychological thing, kind of your upbringing.
So this movie in particular, it's one of my favorites, all-time favorites as far as a comedy / horror goes. It's a 4 out of 5 for me.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Easy, 4
Hands
out of 5.
down.
I could watch it over and over.
And we have.
I mean, I own it on DVD.
Every time we watch it, too, we see something new.
And I like watching people that the camera's not focused on.
Yeah.
I was pointing that out.
They span it really wide. You see the whole group, and you really get that feel of being a spectator.
It's crazy.
To all of this laying out. Like Feldman's character. You're watching all this happen from your porch, and it's really kind of cool.
It's really neat. I love it. So
super good movie. A very, very popular one. So most of you have more than likely seen it. If you haven't, please check it out. It's a lot of slapstick funniness.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really a feel good movie, which is odd that it was put into the horror genre.
Exactly.
So let us know what you think. What are your thoughts on how it ended up in the horror, department?
Yeah.
What did you think of it? Did you like it? That kind of stuff. And we will see you next time when we get bored and decide to do another one of these videos.
Thank you guys to another episode of Gore to Be Gore.
Yes, and every one of you have absolutely pleasant nightmares.